And we are live. Welcome, coaches. Thank y'all so much for being here. I'm with the man, the myth, the legend, JT O'Sullivan. What's going on? The quarterback guru himself. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Besides for that intro, but yes,
Please.
yeah.
That was
I don't want any of that, bro.
a little subdued. I should have went way over top because you were the man. Let's just, if I'm not going to have you tell everybody who you are, because if they don't know you, first off, this is third time on. I appreciate you coming back on, man. I love talking ball with you and everything. And if they don't know who you are, they need to go on YouTube.
Well, I appreciate that. They definitely probably don't know who I am, but it's quite all right. I enjoy coming on here. I love talking ball, and it's more than just that with me and you, but it's a fun time to come in here and connect with people who especially love ball too. I think that's the other part about it. Like, yeah, it's me and you, but it's a whole community of people out there that are kind of just starving for this stuff. So it's fun.
Yes, and you have built, like we were talking right before we came on. What are you, 90K hitting close to 100K? I mean, your stuff, man. You were one of the few people I have the bell notification on, and yep, boop. I'm like, okay, hey kids, I know we've got school going on, but do a worksheet. I will be back in about 15 minutes. I want to hear, and that's something I wanted to ask. But before we get to that, coaches, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, put them in chat. We will, when there's a break in the conversation or something, one of us sees it, we will answer that question. But you come out with some greats every Sunday now. You pick out a quarterback and you break down what they do. Like, how do you figure what you're going to do week by week, or is it just you're watching a game, you see something really interesting, you know what, I want to talk about that?
Yeah, it's more the second part of it. It really is. Like, I think people would be a little surprised to know how little I watch on Sundays, but inevitably I'll catch something or someone will get a hold of me about, you got to check this out, and I'll watch it and I connect with it. And that's the great thing about this, to a certain extent, this meaning this platform, is you get to do whatever you want. And like, I like doing things that resonate with me. I also am pretty open to people reaching out, especially people who are, I've connected with over the channel and kind of nudge me in certain kind of directions. And so I have my favorites. I make no bones about it. Like, you can go on there and kind of see who I do and who I don't do. And, I just prefer to watch the quarterbacks that I enjoy. And so that part of it is like the best part. Like, I don't have to watch anybody, you don't have to like prepare for the opponent that you hate. I get to watch everybody that I like to watch. And so that part of it is a blast. And I think it resonates with people. I think some people get frustrated, that I don't do Big Ben videos all the time, but that's just the way it is right now.
Yeah, who cares about that? And you're right, it does. It resonates. And for those, I'm just going to go ahead and drop your channel in here if they don't know it already. And I wanted to talk to you, like, how do you watch a game? Do you watch it as a fan, or do you try to shut off that part, that player part, coach part in your brain when you're watching it, or is it always there? And I'm always curious, like, how do you watch games?
I think it really depends. Honestly, it's inevitably, I probably know somebody on most of the organizations, whether it's somebody in the front office or somebody I played with, they'd be the old guys nowadays. But if I know the coach, I'm probably rooting for them, type of a thing, where I'm that type of thing, when you would watch, your friend in high school, or that type of thing. It's the exact same thing. If I don't know anybody, I probably, just prefer to watch a well-played quarterback game. And what I look for when I say that is, like, the accuracy, the timing, the anticipation. Those are the things that I love to see from the position. And then just the competitiveness and the ability to be a good game. I don't think anybody wants to watch a blowout either way. And so it's a combination of all those things. I honestly, like, it is, I probably watch more just like random football on Saturdays, just because it's more fun for me, because I don't know anybody. I just look for good ball, and I'm, it's fun for me to check out a lot of those games, even though there's no games on the West Coast right now, which is bizarre. So after like 4 p.m., it's just dark over here. But I probably watch more just random games on Saturday, and then Sunday, no offense to everybody who's watching this, but we're probably at the beach.
Yeah, and you sent me that text about a book that you're reading right now on the beach, and I was like, "That's some bitch, man. You're just rubbing it in."
I mean, you got a beach out there.
Yeah, 3 hours away.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not big time like you. I don't have one right in my backyard that I could just like cross the street.
It's that island living, man. Come on.
And you're talking about Saturdays. You put up. It hurt my heart a little bit. I mean, it made me happy. The Mississippi State LSU. You did one on that, and then I was waiting on the one to drop like what happened and just have a compilation of the Kentucky and the Arkansas with like wah 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 music.
I mean, that's the thing about it. Since that game, I haven't watched a second of Mississippi State. Like, I know that they haven't been doing well, but unless it's the main game out here, I'm probably not going to search it out on like SEC plus or whatever channel it's on. And so it's
I totally subscribe to ESPN Plus to watch that, and I'm mad that I did.
Well, see, I like you guys are all. I mean, I know I tread lightly when I talk to the air raid community, but I'm like barely a toe in the water with the air raid stuff, and so I don't feel the burning desire every single week to check out the Pirate.
Yeah, Dude, I'm gonna be honest. What's your take on football? You try to stay off social media a lot, but I know sometimes you see the coaches fussing at each other, that the different cliques. What's your thought process when you see that?
You mean like air raid guys going?
Yes, and like wing tee guys that jaw back and forth, and just many coaching cliques.
Yeah, I don't honestly, like, I'm just naive. Like, I barely can, I've been at this for just over a year, like not even really a year with the whole COVID year, depending on how you quantify that. But I honestly don't pay that much attention to it. I enjoy elements. I sprinkle a little wing tee. I sprinkle a little air raid. I don't probably fall into any specific bucket when it comes to that. I think it's fun to be able to speak a little bit of the language and know what you're watching more than anything else. But like, bro, I don't care. To be honest with me, more than anything else, I guess I consider it, if you're a system guy, you're probably not, or this is my opinion, obviously, you're probably not serving the players of the program to their most efficient capacity, meaning that I like to be able to build it around whatever we have. If we've got somebody who's a mauler who can grind it out, who's a fullback type guy, then great, let's go two back. If we don't, we're not going to do that. I'm not going to put it in a cookie cutter type of a situation. And so, I that's just how I feel about the whole systems thing. If you asked our players, they probably think we're just kind of like a garbage can of all the, bits and pieces of everything that I kind of like. And so they got to deal with it.
Tempo. That's what I'm going to lump you in, the tempo crowd.
Oh, and I'm definitely the tempo crowd.
How has that affected you with COVID? I know you and dive in, like, when do you start? December? Is that when you like officially start? Do you know? Have they pushed it back?
That's the pencil date right now is 12/12. And you hit me right in my sweet spot a little bit for a handful of different reasons that I won't get into and make this a therapy session. But the idea being, it's tough to practice going fast, over Zoom. It just is. And so, I still think that from the coaching standpoint, I'm always kind of tinkering with how we can go faster, how we can carve things out of our language and be a little bit more efficient. And we're going to experiment with things, but at the same time, I'm pretty locked into the fact that, if we get an opportunity to play out here in California, it's going to be pretty bare bones. We haven't been able to be on our campus at all. So no weight room, no field, no anything. And so, I empathize with our players, but, from a teaching standpoint, it's going to be I don't want to just fall back into saying, oh, we're going to be bare bones, we're only going to do this. Well, they've still been putting in work, trying to learn. And so I want to find a way to be able to maximize what we can hold kind of capacity wise and obviously be able to go really fast when we want to.
Always then. So how is that working? Like, have you installed, at least theoretically, all the offense and you're going over it so that when you do get out on the field, you can start just going with the reps? Or is it just like checking in type deal and just doing one play? How does that work with your players?
We've probably gone through like 3 different iterations of learning, whether it be like Zoom or, potentially AAU practices out here. That's how people classify it, because you can't do any sort of high school specific practice. So you form these AAU clubs to rent fields and practice. And then now we've kind of reverted back to Zoom elements of it. But, my thing about it is, even at the highest levels, even though you might install everything. So even in the NFL, on the offseason, you're going to install the majority of your bones of your offense in the offseason. And then again in camp, so you get the multiple installations, and that's the thing that we probably have installed everything twice, but does it mean that it resonated with them? Hell no. Like we still got a long way to go as far as the execution element of it, but have they heard everything? Probably 90% of what I would love to do this year, but it doesn't mean that we're going to get to all that. It's all dependent on, the guys who are playing, what they can do and what they're good at.
So I know if you're going to get rid of anything from last year, like, okay, we won't get that. What's the one thing that's on the back burner that you're not going to install or do or something like that?
We probably, I don't know if I probably underestimated what we could handle up front with our line unit, and I overestimated what our perimeter could handle. And so I'm probably going to balance that out and be a little bit more, do a little bit more in the run game, do a little bit more with the pass pro unit, and probably do a little bit less with the perimeter. And that's a combination of what they've shown to be able to handle this offseason and just kind of what I think their capacity is right now. It doesn't mean that that's going to be the end all what we do, but I would imagine us being a little bit more robust. And, last year we were inside zone and long trap. That was really it run game wise. And so we're going to do, we have the capacity to potentially do more if those guys can prove that they can handle it.
All right. 2 questions, twofold. One, what is it about long trap? Because in South Carolina, the teams that we've faced and have watched, they have gone to the long trap. Like all of them, they have the long trap. That's kind of like their run. And then 2, why do you think you pulled back from the line, didn't put too much on them at first? And what made you say, okay, we can do more with them?
The first part of it was, it's basically our one back power. We're just better at the kick than we are the wrap. That's the way that I think of it. And then we got better with our kind of vertical, what I'm used to calling gap scheme, double teams as the season went along. And so those things kind of accelerated the long trap. And then the idea about honestly, we've got of our probably, let's say, 8-10 offensive linemen that potentially could play for us this year. Probably 3 or 4 of them are 4.7 GPA kids. They could install the offense. A couple of them play quarterback for me just for fun during walkthroughs because they know everything. And so, it's a combination of challenging them, making them do, they can handle it. And so I'm excited for that unit. They've put in a lot of work this offseason. And, they got tired of me, complaining about certain things last year, and they've really taken it to heart and kind of, hopefully get a chance to play at the level that they've prepared at.
The FU coach, we're gonna show you.
Yeah. And and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
I completely agree. I honestly, I like kids that have that FU approach, just because that was me when I played. Like if a coach got onto me, I wanted to do something and be like, hey, fuck you, buddy. I can do it.
And yeah, and it's not like I'm out there like F-bombing them. It's more of like, hey, this is the standard. And, I think I held the perimeter to a high standard last year as far as preparation, that I probably oversimplified things for the offensive line. And then I held them to a higher standard of effort and those things during the game. And potentially they just had never been asked to do certain things about finishing, about tempo, about pace, about, communication. There's some of these guys are so smart that they're not used to asking for any help ever. And I always tell them it's not a library. Like I expect calls to be made every single play. We're going fast, but the communication thing is not a joke. It's you can over communicate. So I say that all the time. They probably get mad at me.
I love it because I'm always yelling at them like, hey, I've had y'all in class. Y'all won't shut up in class. But when we get out here, you won't make a sound. And I'm totally going to steal. It's not a library out here. Yeah. We seem to have I'm not going to have him talk about Mike Leach and everything like that. You kind of struck a nerve right there when you were talking about systems and everything. I'll be honest. I was like, I'm not gonna touch that. I like it though. I like it. Coaches, I put JT's when he's talking about Mike Leach and the LSU game in chat. So if you want to see what he thinks about that, go ahead and click that. Philip says you have a voice for Audible books. Have you ever thought about doing voiceovers? I'm gonna put that up on the screen too. Look at that, boom, right there. Look at that. JT has a voice.
Philip, I'm pretty slow reader. I don't know if people would have to go like times 3 for me.
That's fine.
With the reading.
Okay, since he brought this up, books. I know you're a huge book reader by looking at all your books in the background right there.
No.
What yeah, exactly. What are you reading right now besides the book you text me? Like what's on the docket, cuz I'm looking for a book.
I'm reading. I got deep into like decision making not this off season, but just this kind of COVID thing. And so I'm always fascinated by judgment. And so one thing I'm looking at right now is this book called Nudge by Richard Thaler. It's a pretty popular book. It's not the easiest read. It's not necessarily like a beach read, but that's probably where I spend the most amount of time here on the last few days. And it's good. I mean, it's so much of, I have a background in a little bit of academia, so I can sprinkle that stuff in and not be overwhelmed by it. But it's not like, it's not necessarily a page turner as far as like, Harry Potter. I like a Harry Potter every once in a while too.
Heck yeah, man. I do too. I don't know if I just got off of fiction. I usually fluctuate between fiction and nonfiction. And I was done with The Great Influenza. I freaking loved that book when I was reading it. And then I went Harry Dresden, which is kind of like a noir / wizard type thing. I've been reading that for like 20 years. It's really good, man. I have a soft spot for noir books and movies. I know that's really weird.
You strike me as that type of guy. What was the other one Species. Why can't I think of the guy who wrote Species right now? I just started it. I'm probably a third of the way into it. It's good too.
Oh golly.
You know what I've been into, and this is not book related, but I'm like a love-hate relationship with podcasts. I listen to your boys over at RTP, and then everything else is like, kind of coming into it every once in a while. But I am into the Smartless podcast. My goodness.
Smartless?
Smartless. It might be a little too like Cali, liberal progressive for some people. I don't want to like throw that out there. It's hilarious. It's definitely not political. It's just Hollywood elite.
Yes, dude.
Hollywood
no.
elite.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I listen to that too. Will
hilarious.
Arnett, Jason Bateman, and Sean Hayes. Yes, they are hilarious.
Arnett and Bateman, man, they are hilarious.
I love them.
They kill. Yeah,
I love them. I've fallen in love with those two since Arrested Development.
Right?
Yeah.
That's my jam.
Like, hey guys, let's talk about football instead of freaking podcast. But coaches, again, thank you so much for being here. If you find this entertaining at all, please give it a thumbs up. Invite other people in. We've got Mark and MCKie. You probably don't know who that is. It's my Madden buddy. He's the man. We've got Coach Steve in the house. We've got Todd. How are y'all doing? Now, what I want to kind of talk to you about is you beautiful bastard, pardon my French, just dropped a crazy course on defensive coverage, like A to Z defensive coverage. I want to talk about that because I want to know, first off, how difficult was for you to learn defensive coverage? Like, was that something that you always kind of knew high school, college, and NFL, or was that something that you just exploded when you got to the NFL? How did that work?
I talk about this a little bit in the course, but there's an element of, for me, I think it happened in college for sure. Well, I played, obviously most people play defense in high school or play both sides of the ball. So I had a base understanding of some things, but when I was in college, I didn't play for my first 2 years. And so I got a chance once I learned the offense, I had buddies that played defense and they made calls. And so I would just ask them, like, what is this? And sure enough, I eventually learned the calls and I was like, oh, this is way easier when I know exactly what you're going to be in, so all of a sudden I got really good at like the spring game because I could hear their calls and I would know what they meant. And I was like, oh, this is not that complicated. You just playing some variation of quarters based on the split of the wide receivers. And so that was my start of it. And then I really did that at just about every stop I was at in the league. And so as soon as I learned the offense, I would learn the defense, and then I would just stare at the defensive signal caller during the play call. And it would be a nice, easy way. Now, did I know the nuance
of every single
thing? No, I mean, it's not that hard. I mean, you guys know. I mean, It's really not that hard. Like, I don't want to insult the defensive guys, but like, there's only so many different variations of middle field closed man. Like, you can get into all the leverage and whatever, who's who, and as far as the like thief or rat or whatever. But, does that really affect a whole lot of quarterback reads? Probably not. It really doesn't. And so, that was how it kind of evolved. And then For the course specifically, I was probably pretty comfortable with the vast majority of it up until like I have a decent understanding of what like the man match, zone match stuff, quarters or bracket stuff, I think is the one thing that I probably didn't know the language that much. And so spending a little bit of time with that probably was the most amount of fun I had. I had a blast making the course. I really did. It's a great just kind of thought process for me to go through, beaters for every single coverage, those types of things. But the things that I didn't necessarily know the language about, the Rip Liz match stuff and the seven world was probably the most kind of fun that I had learning, freshly, that type of thing.
And where'd you go down? Like what hole did you go down to learn more about that?
Every hole I could find. I mean, there's so much information available nowadays, right? Like you can get clinics from damn near every person that's ever coached with Saban and be able, you feel like I can speak, Sabanese now, and not necessarily when you're playing. When I was playing against Bill Belichick and the Patriots, I used to think of it as like brackets, double the stars, meaning that they're going to work whatever formation you come in. They're going to try to get a matchup where they have two people on your two best people. And that's at the end of the day, kind of what it is. Now they have a call for every single guy to be able to do that and get the right leverage that they want. And so learning those calls, I don't think it was necessarily a waste of time, but just knowing that they have that lexicon to be able to, you don't need to know that to play it, but you need to know what that looks like and what that feels like. And I remember, seeing like split field coverage where there's, cover 2 on one side and 2 man on the other side. The first time I was playing against Mike Nolan, being like, oh my God, this jacks up my entire read. And then you're at the end of the day, you're like, well, now instead of middle field open, middle field closed, we'll do man zone reads. And so it's just a different way to be able to kind of articulate where the ball should go consistently.
Okay. I freaking love that. And I love how you name drop Belichick like that. You were the man.
Well, I don't know if I ever told you my favorite Belichick story.
No, you haven't. Let's hear it.
I was only there for a hot minute, like a couple weeks on the practice squad, but it didn't come from when I was there. It came from when I was playing for the 49ers and we played the Patriots. And I'm stretching, doing like, I don't know, like some sort of like hamstring stretch, like on the 45-yard line. And I get this pat on the back and it's Bill. And he turns, he's like, hey, JT. I'm like, hey, coach, he's like, take it easy on us today. I'm like, come on, man. So sure as hell, I use that all the time now. Whenever we play, anybody who's any good, I'm like, hey, take it easy on us out there.
And then you laugh like him?
No, it was like a joke. He's like, there's no chance you beat us, buddy.
That is awesome, man. You should have told me that sooner. Philip says, JT is a godsend. At my middle school, we have been killing it with our zebra formation I stole from JT and Sean Payton. What is zebra? What formation is that?
I have no idea what zebra formation is. I think zebra is most often, is it 11 personnel on the West Coast? I forget.
Oh, golly. You need to.
Too many formations, man. I just think of it as numbers.
All right. And hey, guys, if you're watching this on Facebook, there's a link. Click it and allow StreamYard to give your permission so we can see your face. But Coach wants to know, what was the muse for this course? Like, what made you decide, okay, I'm going to talk about coverages?
That is an excellent question. So I might have reached out to you, Coach MCKie. I think I reached out to like 3 or 4 people and said, like, what would be your dream course? And so one of the people that I reached out to was Bass, Coach Bass over there at Make Defense Great Again. And he said this. And so I actually ended up using a bunch of his podcasts for some of the material on the bracket stuff as well. But that was kind of the genesis for it. And really, I have a couple courses lined up from some of the great kind of suggestions that I got. And so it's just I was just looking for ways to connect. Honestly, it's one of my favorite things about falling into this YouTube thing is it's fun to do kind of the deep dive stuff that you just can't get on TV or a whole lot of other places. And so this course is basically that on steroids.
Yes,
it's just like it's the max of max. I couldn't do more if I wanted to. If anything, I'd want to do less. I feel like I'm almost doing it a disservice when it's so long, but there's just no other way to get around it.
No, it is. And Todd says right here, the course is even better the second time through. Todd has been singing the course's praises, man. He's like, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread, and I fully agree with him. Look, speak of the devil, say his name and he shows up. Look at him. What's going on, Coach? How you doing?
Right on cue.
I know, man. That's crazy. And speaking of the course, I'm putting it in the chat right there. Seriously, guys, it is a very good course. You should check it out. I mean, and talk about. Have you released the tool yet? The perfect.
The tool is out there, man. I know.
That thing is
I dropped it to you early.
Amazing. Yes, you did. Do you have the link and that you can throw it in the chat real quick? If not, that's fine. I'm going to send this out and I'll put it in the description. But Coach has a coach. What are they, Coach JT? That's what I'm going to start calling you from now on. Not the QB school guy. You're Coach JT.
Or you can just say JT.
Coach Tempo, because I know how much you hate when people say coach.
I mean, the coach thing for me is just a weird thing. Like, I'm not your coach. So like, I just feel weird when people say coach or call people who aren't their coaches coach. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
I'm going to become it. For me, I'm an idiot, a Southern bumpkin. So I forget a lot of people's names, but I know that they're coaches.
I know that trick too. Yeah. Whenever somebody just says coach to me, it means they have no idea what my name is. And
the worst is when I have students talk to me out in public and I kind of try to glance at their name tag when they're working.
That's a good one. How do you put something in the chat for this? Sorry.
You should just be able to, on the right side, it says comments. If you click comments and then you can put it in the post. All right. We got another, tell JT needs to work for smooth. That's what, Vass says.
Yeah. I appreciate that, Vass.
All right. Hey, we already got one. He wants to know, Coach Spellman wants to know, do you have any ideas for your third course?
I do have some ideas. I don't necessarily feel like like they're all pencil right now, to be honest with you, more than anything else. I think I'm going to do something, honestly, that is, I don't want to throw this out there because then I won't do it, but I'll say it out there anyway. I'm probably going to do a free course through Teachable just because I want more people to be able to get into the platform just because I love it so much. And I think it's really cool and easy, but at the same time, you know, I'm hesitant to do that to a certain extent. But I do think that there will be an element of that. I think it might be a little pass pro-y. I know that isn't really QB school.
Well, I mean, if you can't protect, you can't throw.
Yeah, I mean, the air raid people get all sensitive that I'm not going to, I'm not going to say, like talk about any special code things that I, barely know about. Very complicated. But that's the thing. I think there is this misconception about. There's an technical element of it that it wouldn't be about that. It would be more scheme oriented and feeling sound. And I just know the difference playing quarterback when you feel protected, when you feel like you have answers. What if they do this? What if they do that? You have answers. If you don't feel that way, I've also felt like, I'm getting hit with a tidal wave every other play, and this is like a video game. And so, those types of things are not great feelings too. So I kind of am leaning towards that, but who knows?
I like it, and it's going to be unbelievable and look amazing with your cameras and everything.
See the two cameras. I should have got your fancy whatever stream.
You can, dude. If you got this, you could set it up for the two cameras, and you can go camera one, camera two, and everything like that.
I love the second camera, man. The second camera, the slider, you get it moving.
Yeah, freaking Hollywood over there. I mean. I've got a desk back here that my wife won't let me get rid of because we may use it at one time. And look at you, you've got 1,000 books back there.
No, you don't give me that, bro. You've upgraded your system. I can tell. You got the clean image now. You got the big time mic. Got the arm.
Yeah. I'm trying to get on your level, man. Look at you.
Come on, man. But don't give me the I'm not up in my game type vibe. I know. I know exactly what it takes here with this stuff.
I want to come back to the Pass Pro because I do love Pass Pro, and that's something I feel that's under taught, or there's not enough videos out there. It's kind of like a secret language that many people don't know. Like everyone can draw up pass plays, but if you can't protect it, the greatest pass play in the world doesn't work. Do you give your quarterback the ability to check pass protections, or are you calling that from the sideline, or do you just have one? I see you shaking your head saying no.
I would love to someday be able to give the quarterback the ability to do that. Right now, our offensive line would be just better at it. They just have a better understanding of what we're trying to do. For me, it's less about and I don't know what the best way to say this is, it's less about, where the mic point is or what this is or where we're sliding to, and more about giving them the tools to make the decisions that happen in real time, especially because we are super tempo, right? So we're not going to get, exotic very often. And so the only time we really talk exotics is when we come out of a timeout or a quarter break, those types of things. I know we're going to get pressure because that's the only time in the whole game that the guy can deal up, his exotic that he's been working on all week. But besides for that, we're trying to go as fast as we can and make sure that we're communicating. And so there's an element of just being able to give them the language to be able to do it. It's one of those things where we don't tolerate just kind of get out of your stance and jump back and block whoever comes to you. Like that stuff is not going to work. And so we want to make sure we're on the same page about where we're looking, where we're trying to go, we're communicating, we're getting depth, all those types of things. But it's also, for me, I probably lived last year in a little bit more 6-man protection than I would have anticipated. And so this year we'll probably get a little bit more kind of all over the place with some 5-man stuff, some 7-man stuff, and just be a little bit more varied as far as not giving these defensive coordinators an opportunity to put 2 on the back.
I like that. 7-man I like that, especially if you can.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably the one. I'm getting Mike Pence over here. Yeah, it's probably one of the things that I did last year. We evolved into a 10 personnel team kind of by default, not necessarily because I wanted to do it. And you just lose a lot of the pass pro options, and the play action thing was for me probably the biggest thing that I regret not being better at. And so, incorporating that, whether it's a sniffer, a fullback, a tight end, what that looks like, for us best personnel wise, but being multiple enough to be able to do many things and change the launch point of the quarterback. We were a very, shockingly, RPO and kind of drop back team. And so being able to change the launch point of the quarterback, I think will help our pass pro too.
Okay. And you've got that already installed and everything in the offense.
The offensive line could play tomorrow. Everybody else, I don't know if they could.
Hey, you won 80-20 right there. If the offensive line could do it, you can just go ahead and have the skill guys line up. Coach wants to know, what are your thoughts on scripting? Like, do you script, or do you just go in there with like, okay, this is a play, and if they stop it this way, I know to call this, or what's your thought process?
Scripting, like a game scripting, or scripting practice? We script practice. I don't necessarily script. I've gone both ways. I mean, I've only coached 12 games, so to whatever that's worth. I've scripted out kind of like a top 20 list of plays that I know I want to call, and then I'm not necessarily going down a line. I don't do it quite as much as like in the league. I felt like the script in most teams is kind of like, I want to see how they line up to our empty, 3x2 or whatever, our nub or our trips.
I love your voice when you're saying that.
Well, I mean, I can remember being in meetings being like, okay, we're going to call this empty play and we're going to get them with draw, but we want to see how they line up so we can come back and throw stick. I'm like, oh, okay, well, we're really pushing the envelope with what we got going this Sunday. So it's just, I just don't, there's only so many ways to do it to a certain extent. And we do so much peak tempo where we're kind of, dummy cadence looking over at me, and I'm just calling whatever, if I see space that I kind of want to attack, I'll make it pretty obvious to the quarterback with the call where we want to go with the ball and those types of things. That's what I prefer. I don't necessarily script, first 15 plays. We definitely practice, the plays that we rep in team period will be in that kind of 20 call sheet type of I try to get to, but inevitably if we don't call them that week, we'll call them another week. Very few plays are kind of, this is only for this, coverage, only for this team. I try to make them, kind of what I talk about in the course is kind of an all-purpose menu, things that are good versus anything, air raid guys thinking like Y cross type of thing, those types of things that you could dial up, and feel pretty good about everything. And so those types of plays, I try to have as many as possible. Inevitably, there will be some like, oh, we're going to get this guy, this matchup, this thing every single week, but it doesn't necessarily fall into like the script per se.
Okay. Are you a trick play kind of guy?
I want to be more of a trick play kind of guy. I don't know, how do you practice trick plays? Like
I'm going to be complete. I can't. Like, I want to be it too, but there's just, to me, I'm wasting it down. I'm wasting it down because I don't know if it's going to work or not, if it'll mess up. But then also in practice, the way practice is now, I went from a 2-platoon team. I'm at a new school now where we 1 platoon. So I only have a limited amount of time on offense. And I'm like, does the time spent on the trick play outweigh the time we can get better at your favorite concept, the Y cross? You know?
I know I've told you what we call that in our program, but I
feel honored.
Yeah, I don't have a good answer for that. I would love to be more of a trick play. This year, we actually have a handful of guys who I consider pretty good at throwing it, that I think it would be silly if I didn't incorporate them into it a little bit. But, what that looks like, I don't know. Last year, I'm such a bit of, it's totally me being kind of a clown. We had this whole trick formation thing based on a 4th down where you could have more eligible numbers in the game. Mm-hmm. And we called it our FUP personnel. And so, right. So you can on 4th down, you can have 11 eligibles out there. And so we were messing around with that, but inevitably over the course of 12 games, it never came up. So we practiced. I had these 3 plays that I loved, this 3-play menu. And one of them was a really cool play that I would love to get back to eventually, but it never happened. And we practiced it every week, every kind of mock game for what we did on Thursdays, okay, we got to get this situation. FUP 1, here we go. And all the players would be like, all right. And it'd be and then it would never come up. And I'd be like, well, sorry, it was a waste. And so I probably need to be better at it. I've always been someone, and you tell me if I'm crazy or not, but I would love to get to the point where I would encourage more laterals, less structured trick plays and more just okay, this guy's good with the ball. I trust his decision making. You got the green light. If you see something, make a play. I think back in the day, the Ravens, on defense, where it was they get an interception and that thing might get pitched 3 times, where it's all those guys, Ed Reed was basically a quarterback. He was the best quarterback coming out of high school. And so those types of things, not that we have an Ed Reed, but guys that I trust with the ball, who have pretty good ball skills, I would love for them to be able to be a little bit more creative down the field, as opposed to catching a hitch and looking for the first place to fall down.
Wait a minute, you run hitches? I didn't. I
know I give so many people a hard time about hitches. We do run a lot of hitches.
And you say about the lateral. I know that Kevin Kelly, the crazy guy in Arkansas, he tried something like that. That was his big thing for one season, and I want to say he tried it 2 games, and it was nothing but fumbles.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's I agree. I like it just because of rugby. They do it in rugby. Why can't we do it in football?
Yeah, and maybe it comes from my brother was a professional rugby player, and so that might influence me a little bit. But and I'm a big fan of Kevin Kelly, the football scheme coach. We obviously do the Pulaski Academy kind of strategy as far as not punting onside kicks, and that part of it is a lot of fun. But we haven't quite graduated to his exotic offense, where I feel like he does more kind of out of the box stuff than I probably do. I'm a little bit more, old school, maybe.
Yeah. I do love how he always, if you see him, he's always got sleeveless shirts, and it's jacked from the arms, man.
Arkansas, bro. It's the stereotypes are I feel
stereotypes for a reason.
Well, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's the football element, though. Big fan of the strategy.
Yes. All right, we got another question from Coach. Again, guys, if you're watching this on Facebook, go ahead and give StreamYard the permission. It's right above my beautiful bald head. Just click the link, and it says yes. Also, if you're watching this anywhere else and you like this, give it a thumbs up. That lets us know that this is what you like. But Coach wants to know, how does weather affect your play calling? I know you're around the San Diego area, so it's always sunny and 70 degrees. But if you do have a sprinkle of rain, how does that affect your play calling?
That's what I was laughing at the snow comment. That is funny. Yeah, I don't care. I guess I have played in, from a player standpoint, played in monsoon type games, and for me, obviously you might not be able to throw it quite as well as you could on a dry day, but the idea being nowadays, I think it's probably even gotten better. I haven't played in almost 10 years, but when I was at the tail end of my career, the gloves nowadays are so good that it feels like the ball's dry, and so that element of it really doesn't change that much for us. I've always thought, and this is coach speak, so I apologize, but the offense really does have an advantage in any sort of weather, just because where you're going, if you can do that type of thing. I think we're just like most spread teams, and most quarterback people who, you probably think you're a little bit more pass than you are. We're just as much spread run them as we are spread pass them, to a certain extent. And so, that you might tilt that way a little bit in the rain, but I don't necessarily say like, oh, we're not going to do anything. I know from a player standpoint, the one thing that I didn't love to do in bad weather was any sort of touch ball, if that makes sense. So anything that was a drive, meaning that I could rip it as hard as I could, like a comeback or a bang eight, or, anything where I'm throwing it hard, it was fine. Anything that I had to like put any sort of touch on, like a fade or a corner, it just felt like I didn't have the same touch element of it. So that would probably be the few things that I would shy away from. But as far as most of our RPOs, most of our drive kind of middle tier attacking plays, we'd be fine with
okay.
everything.
Great answer, man. Great answer.
Are you anti? Are you different? Do you go
no,
like straight
I'm like, hey,
32 personnel and just
no, this is who we are. We're just I may lean a little bit more toward the run, just a little bit, or if I'm throwing passes, it'll be things like screens and things like that, where it was just get the ball out there. But I don't, because I also, that usually people ask that for spread coaches, like, what do you do if it rains or if it snows? Under center teams, I've played in bad weather games, and they fumble the snap when it's under center, but yet no one asks them that question. And it's just like, that's just nature of the beast.
The other trick of the trade that I will say that we do anytime we're in a rain game, and this isn't from me, I didn't make this up, but I definitely use it. If you're going to take a shot down the field, it's always to start a series. It's always anytime that you run out of bounds. So we would call like a jet sweep to our sideline, tell our guy to run out of bounds, make sure we get a dry ball, switch in and take a shot, those types of things. Those absolutely happen. And it's a lot easier in the league where the ball boy and you can kind of, deflate gate it a little bit as far as like what it looks like for you to have under the snap. But I definitely remember making sure like, hey, we're taking a shot coming out of a TV timeout. That ball needs to be dry, bro. Those types of things that absolutely happen.
Heck yeah, man. Look at that. Write that down, coaches, because I'm totally gonna steal that. Davis wants to know your favorite drive, the smash drive concept that LSU ran. Seems like a lot of people have taken that way, man. I saw one right here. Show us your favorite version of drive. I know you've covered drive a lot on your channel. Coach, if you go to JT's channel, and if you haven't subscribed, if none of y'all subscribe, what have y'all been doing? Like, why even go to YouTube?
I appreciate that. The drive concept, not to give away a whole lot of a 12-hour course, but the drive concept is one of my all-purpose menus in the course. And off the top of my head, let me see what I do. I go drive smash. I go drive out, what I call drive out go. I go drive out posts, and I go drive out scissors. And we run all those, and they're basically pure progression reads for us, where the drive is basically the number 2 and the basic where the in is the number 3. And I love the drive concept tethered to those other concepts, because everything comes into your face, right? The drive is coming, the whatever, what is it called for you guys? 91 something, whatever the shallow is coming across.
Look at it, and you're trashing the air raid.
I'm not trashing the air raid. I know it. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I just like giving you guys a hard time that you think you guys are so simple because you only got, so many things, but it's pretty nuanced. There are some elements that are pretty nuanced. I'm a big fan. You know what I really like is the cross divide play. Whew.
Yeah. And you know what? I'm going to do this because I know a lot of people are like, what is all in your course? I'm going to bring up, this is how fancy it is. Okay.
Yeah, show me how fancy this is.
All right. Here, actually, you know what? Hold on. Let me bring it over here. Let me blow this up. And I'm screen 2. Boom. All right. Coaches, here is the curriculum. Look at that. You're dealing with a fantastic course when it has curriculum. I can't even spell that, and I'm a math teacher. That's why I'm math. But look what he was talking about, what I really love. All right, you have all these coverages down here. Cover 0, best con. That's what I loved about it. Like you break it down. Here's the coverage. Okay. And these are the concepts that do really well against these coverages. Cover one.
You see how I hide all the beaters there? That's very, very strategic. So you can't just come in there and just get them for free. Like I actually need to go in there and for people who haven't checked out the toolbox, if you check out the toolbox, I send out a number of more previews after you sign up for the toolbox. I'll send out a bunch of different ones. But do me a favor, go up to the 7 world.
Yes.
What number is it? There it is. That 7 variations, different variations. Is that right? No, like the second or third one, 8A right or 8B or something. That was probably my favorite video for me to do. I had more fun doing the 7 different variations, the deep dive. Sorry, I can barely read your two font here. But the deep dive, I'm telling you, that's about as good as anything I will ever create video content wise. I almost just want to put it on YouTube just because I enjoy it so much, but I'll probably wait like a couple years. But I had a lot of fun doing that.
I could tell, and it came across. But my favorite stuff is the all-purpose menu. If you can't see this, guys, I'm sorry. You can though. JT's just being there. You know what? How about this? Bam, right there. This is get our ugly faces out of the way. But look at this. You've got all of these concepts, concept 1 to 13. That's all purpose. You could take this right here and create your entire passing playbook. And that is why this is
little did you know that it's just 91, 92, 93.
No, let's be honest. It's nothing but
618 mesh. Wheel.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah, I know you're kidding, but dude,
I love
that.
That
is
play.
Unbelievable at the high school level, at least where I'm at. It just crushes.
We're putting it's in this year. I'm telling you, yeah, I love it. I'm excited about it. Now our players have no idea that it's really called that. I totally played it off like I invented this new play. I think it's going to be good.
I just came up with it, guys. This is my big NFL brain right here. I was on the beach reading my book, and then boom, I came up with this play. All right. You have a question right here. JT, do you ever teach in a classroom setting? Because our head coach does not, and I think it's important before taking the field. Teaching on field takes away from reps on field. Thoughts? Thanks, JT. Love QB school.
Well, I appreciate that. Yes and no, I guess. For me, we do most of our classroom type teaching in the off season. So do I get up in front of an overhead projector like back in the day and do installs every single Monday? No, not at all. We have kind of a coach's office where I'll meet with the perimeter and kind of the different groups, but I don't necessarily make it like a lecture by any means. Now, that being said, we do all of our installs, our videos, so they can go on there and watch a video anytime they want, those types of things. But I think that there are elements of, the other part of that question that's kind of inferred is that we're coaching during practice or teaching during practice. And both myself and the defense coordinator, who's probably one of my better friends, we are notorious for yelling at other coaches that we don't coach on the field, that we can coach in the meeting, we can coach in the walkthrough, we can coach in the teaching periods. But when we're in team period, we're not coaching. We're not stopping the drill, and talking to one person while 40 people are standing there. That's absolutely not happening. But we do probably more walkthroughs than most people as far as just trying to save legs and teach. I always thought that was kind of the learning, at least playing the position. I thought it was more efficient to get out there and feel what it feels like, to throw to space and to know what it will look like through the helmet. That's the one thing I don't love about watching film is you get that kind of, no offense, but that Madden view of everything looks great from the spider cam. Yeah, that's great, bro. Well, what happens when you get hit in the face, and they're getting, blitzed, that I like to be able to see it through what I call through the helmet type of mindset. And so we'd probably do more walkthroughs than maybe some other people, but I don't know. Hope that makes sense.
It does. And I'm glad you said that because I want to circle back to whenever y'all start practice and everything. Are you going to structure your practices different? Are you going to try to get some strength training in, some conditioning? Have you thought? I'm sure you thought about that. How is that going to work? Because here, when we finally got into it, it was like coaches were fighting two things. One, the typical summer, I'm going to try to get all this conditioning and strength and everything back in. But then The other part was we need to get the plays in and get reps, and it's actually the season. We don't have that fall install or that summer. Well, what's going through your head on that?
I think that's an important conversation. I think initially I'm most concerned about just the injury element of it, whatever that looks like. I don't pretend to have all the answers when it comes to those types of things. Some people have been very diligent about their preparation and really use this time strategically to get bigger, stronger, faster. And, I think you're being naive if you think everybody did that. And so it's about finding that balance for what that looks like as a program. Philosophically, we don't condition. And that's not necessarily because I don't think you have to be in shape. That's just because the expectation for how I expect them to practice is at such a tempo that if they're not getting their work in, then I'm not structuring the practice correctly.
I love it.
And so we don't like run gassers. That won't be something that comes up. But I'm also in the camp of these are young people that can get stronger during the season. And so while we make them come in and do 1 rep maxes the first day, no. But do I expect them to be in the weight room getting stronger as the season progresses? Yes. And so it's up to me and the coaching staff to create that structure to allow them to be able to spend the time in the weight room with recovery, with what being, feeling good about when they get on the field as far as not being exhausted or tired or what those legs feel like to be able to play at a really high level. But I do think that you can get stronger during the course of a season. Absolutely.
Okay. Speaking of your season, is it like a normal season or are you going straight into conference play? Do you have non-conference? How was that? How have they changed it?
Well, that's a great question. Right now, it is basically what they did is they chopped everyone's week 1 gone. So basically because everybody had a game week 1. And so they canceled that week 1. So you jump right into week 2. And that's the only difference. And so they can allow you to play 10 games. Right now, we're scheduled to have a bye week 9, and I can't find an opponent. So if someone's watching that wants to play in week 9 that, isn't St. John Bosco, we're probably pretty interested in Southern California. But besides for that, that's what it is. I personally probably would have preferred a different method as far as just giving more wiggle room. I think you're starting to see the NFL kind of be backed up into not having enough space to kind of be adaptable to what this thing is at the moment. And so we'll see how it goes. At the moment, you just prepare what you can prepare for, and all those decisions are way above my pay grade.
Yeah, it's we're kind of like I was telling you before we got on, and I don't know if any of the coaches are watching anything. We're in quarantine, so our whole football team and 2 coaches are in quarantine, and that how we did is we dived right into region play or conference, and then we had 2 non-conference, and those 2 non-conferences, if you get canceled like we did, where we had to move games, we just dropped the non-conference and then put them in the back end to make up the games. But the thing that's hurting is once we get to the playoffs, if you have to quarantine because of that, that's just a forfeit. So they haven't even told us, like, what if we get to the second to the last game, we're going to the playoffs, we get canceled or forfeit, does then the number 3 team get in the playoffs? Or let's say it's going to be a cluster, man. I don't know if y'all have like that all planned out if then, or is it just a roll the dice?
Yeah, and no, they haven't. We haven't walked through that part of it. My thing about it, and I said my piece early when they were going through the workshops and the feedback part of what we were trying to do out here. My thing about it is, and I don't want to like hurt people's feelings, but for me, I'm less focused on like winning a state championship more than I am creating a great experience for these students. So I want to play as many games as possible. I don't care if we have 6 weeks and get all the way to a state final. Like that's not why I'm doing this. And so I'd rather play a full season and have like a regional bowl type game where everybody gets an 11th game, those types of things, as opposed to, 2 teams getting to play 14 games and everybody else, getting 9 games. It just doesn't make sense for me if we're really trying to create a great experience for these players. But, obviously they're not going to listen to the guy from YouTube. I'm not making I'm not making the decisions when it comes to that, but it's fine. I mean, we'll be adaptive and ready to roll. And it's one of those things where it's a fascinating thing for so many coaches, because so many of us are probably tilt towards a little bit more controlling and, always wanting to make the decision, know exactly what's going on, have the calendar locked in, and you just can't do that. Right. And so there's an element of letting go and find a kind of finally eating your own words about being adaptive and all those types of buzzwords that you really have to practice in real time, and your players can see how you react and how you can be flexible and all those things. And so, we'll see. We'll hopefully be ready to go, but I have no idea what's
I
going to look
love it,
like out
man.
here.
Shots fired on the air raid, on system guys, on anal football coaches telling them you got to be adaptable. I freaking love this. And what I tell my kids is I go, listen, I don't know what's going to happen. That's why every game that we do play, it's a blessing. Like this is the first time in 11 years where I hardly get worked up in practice. When I'm on the sideline, I'm just enjoying it because I'm out there with the kids and we get to play football. And it's, it really is woo woo, but it's like, hey, every game's a blessing. They could have canceled the season. A lot of things could happen. I'm just glad to be out there. And I've decided this year, I'm just going to get weird. Like I'm going to do some weird stuff that I never like.
Can you give me a sample, just a small sample, maybe something you've already done?
Yes. I let my quarterback, like we were talking about, check run plays. Like to me, that's given up. I'm not fully weird like that. I do have a couple of plays in my back pocket that we have been working on whenever we have it. But to me, that's like, hey, I've always wanted to give my quarterback permission to make checks and actually call plays. Like I'll just go out there and be like, hey, check. And he's got the whole playbook, like straight up Leach style. Like he can call it. And it really works. And I'm wondering, okay, till it doesn't. Yeah, until I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? But for you, if you're like, okay, this is the time I can get weird. I know everybody wants to run that play or that type of offense, something like that. What is your like, I want to get weird with this?
I'm already pretty weird. Like that's like we do a lot of things that most people out here would probably be like, yo, that guy's pretty weird. Like they should probably kick off normal, or like maybe don't go for it on 4th and 27 from your own 5, but like we got to play for that. And so it's just like it, I don't know. Honestly, that's one of the best things about, I'm not telling anything most people don't already know, but like when you're the head coach, like I already decided to be weird. Like it's not one of those things where I'm making a lot of like in-game strange strategic decisions. Most of those decisions are made beforehand. I think there are things that I absolutely want to get into more just because I've spent a little bit more time kind of seeing what's out there, what I think people are doing at a high level. But I mean, will we get into it? It really depends on how much our players can handle capacity wise more than anything else. We might just be inside zone up and down the field. Hopefully not, but mix in some stick.
Shit on just inside zone things.
I like inside zone. I got inside zone long trap. Let's do it.
All right. Hey, Vass found a team for you to play. De La Salle. There you go.
Oh, perfect. If they come down here and bust the same day, maybe. And that's awesome. Of course he found them.
Yeah.
Tell him I'd rather do Sarah.
Yeah, there you go. Jesus. All right. Are you allowing quarterbacks to tag routes? No, not for me. No, that's too much. That's too weird for me.
I don't allow the quarterbacks to do much of anything at the moment. It's one of those things where they're going to have to prove their ability to handle what we're asking them to do before we're out there tagging routes.
Okay. How can they prove that?
I make them do a handful of things, mostly preparation-wise, as far as we do a lot of index cards. In the past, I've been anti-playbook.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to basically self-bound myself to say, like, if I need to have a playbook, it's too much. And so this year, I'm probably going to do a playbook just because I'm so frustrated at certain groups about their learning and where they're at right now. And so, they need to do the quarterback specifically. I make do index cards and check in with me every week. And if they don't do it, it tells me everything that I need to know about their level of preparation and where they're at. And, I can only say so many times that these are the expectations. These are the levels that we expect you to have effort wise, preparation wise. And if they don't do it, they're making the depth chart pretty simple for me.
What is your index cards? Like, what do they have to do?
It's just like a vocab card. Like you would put a concept. So you would put like 91 on it. And then on the back, you would put, what the concept is, kind of front side, back side, and what the read is, what the drop is, what the expectations are. If that changes based on any type of coverage, I know it won't for you, but it could other places. And so those types of things where that I expect them to do. And, those types of things are the expectations.
You're gonna love this. When JT said playbook, I heard Hal Mummy groaned all the way here in New Orleans.
I stole it, I think, from Leach originally. I was probably the first person. I probably have. You guys will love this.
Go to the library, man. The JT library.
My wife did me a nice favor and made it neat back here,
and messed all the books up.
Well, yeah, I used to have them in like a football order, but like that's what is it called? Swing your sword, whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
yeah, man. I think I got it too. Hold on, my really
I'm sure this is riveting
library right here.
This is riveting stuff here.
I don't have it. Actually, I let someone else read it and they never turned it back. You know what? I'm going to go on Amazon right now while I'm thinking about this and order that book. And I'm going to get it sent. My wife's going to be like, what in the world is going on? So, okay, talking about books, we're coming back to books. What is your favorite football book? Football related book?
Definitely probably the Bill Walsh one. I did a video on it.
The $700 book?
Yeah, it's really expensive. It's weird. Like, why wouldn't they just reprint that? Like, I don't understand. And then like 10 people sent me the digital copy for some reason. Like, I don't know. So you can get the digital copy, but I prefer obviously the hard copy, but I wouldn't spend $700 on it. But that book has sentimental value to me just because my dad gave it to me. My dad met Bill Walsh, those types of things that are cool. And then I remember reading it thinking like, oh, maybe I'm not qualified to be a GM. Like there's a lot. And I was like in the world when I was like, I'm gonna be a head coach GM. And then I was like, maybe I don't want to do that. And so that's probably my favorite. But I honestly, for a long time, I was reading everything I could possibly get my hands on. I got all the, what are they? AFCA books, those types of like strategy books, anything I could find about quarterbacking, all those things I think are great. Now, all the resources are just digital. So not that I'm sure people are still reading football books. I just don't necessarily read them.
Do you read a lot? Are you more hard copy or do you have like a Kindle? Because I know you read a lot, man. Like
I am hard copy, and I don't know why. Well, that's not true. When I'm a student, I like to take notes, and even when I'm reading a book that is challenging to me, I will take notes and kind of like be able to come back to it. Those types of things that I inevitably do to books that I like. But yeah, that's the main reason I do it. Okay,
I'm a nerd out here because I'm kind of the same way. Do you write notes in the book, or do you have a notebook that you jot down?
No, I write notes in the book, and the most, and this has happened probably 5 times, where someone will ask to borrow the book. I'll share the book, and I'm like, the book to me is like my personal journal. Like I'm not like hiding thoughts. Like if there's something I disagree with, there'll be a number of like, what the F, this a clown 10, like totally disagree, like this, whatever, all over the book. And so I probably shouldn't give them out to people that I don't really trust, but there are especially people that I know that I'm kind of objectively opposed to some of their views, that I still want to read their book just to understand their perspective better. But it's like I'm having a conversation with them by myself. And so, yes,
I freaking love that, man. I am the same way. And Johnny says you need to use the Dewey Decimal System in your library.
Old school. I like it. Well, index.
All right. Coach, here you go, man. We already got, here is the link to his course. Again, it is freaking unbelievable. Right there. Dude, I love that we're doing this, but I have to wake up at 4:30.
I mean, it's late for you. I'm late. I feel it's late for me right now.
Yeah, it is. Dude, let's make it. I was gonna say a foursome, but that sounded really weird. Let's do this again.
We can do it a 4th time.
There we go.
At some point, yes.
Is there anything you want to say before you get off? And go ahead, man.
No, I mean, I appreciate the opportunity to get on, talk about the course. I appreciate, your community and people, coaches specifically who are into it, because the thing that I want to make sure I get across, because I don't necessarily think it gets across all the time, is I have a blast doing this stuff. I really do think it's fun. Like it is intellectually challenging to me, specifically for the course stuff, to like bound these types of things together in some sort of cogent map about like how I would attack these things. And so it's exciting for me to share this stuff. And so I want as many people as possible to get an opportunity to share it. And I appreciate the support. And if the channel resonates with you, I appreciate that too. But it's just me having fun with it. So I appreciate it.
No, and it's awesome. And Vass, yeah, y'all need to set that up. He wants to interview you, so y'all can come on. And I tell you what, that I would love to moderate you and him going back and forth on. Okay, if I have this like a chalk war type thing, let's do that.
Oh man, he would crush me, I think.
No, he wouldn't. No, yeah, two titans, y'all would just knock each other out. And I'll be like writing stuff down on my multiple note cards that I'm a note card guy. I know this is where I have a stack. And if I just like something, I will write it down and put it off to the side. That's my notes. I know you're looking at me like,
what do you? How do you go back and find it? You just have like a stack of them.
I have a stack, and I'll just come back and if I like it again, I have my book bags downstairs. But I have every year I get a hardback notebook that I write notes in. So anytime I read a book, see, I'll write in the fringes like you do. You know, I'll cuss out the author like you. Like, what are you talking about? And then if I find something that I like, I will take it and I'll put it in like a section of the notebook where I'm taking notes of that book, things that really resonate with me. So I'll write it down twice, and then sometimes I go back and look. I know I'm
you take take notes on notes. That's very meta.
Yes, I do. It's noteception.
I might recommend doing it digitally just so you could sort it better or like find it better. But like probably. You do you, bro. Like you're old school.
I'm not big time like you though.
I like it, bro.
Yeah. Okay. Well, coaches, thank y'all so much for being here and listening to us ramble all over the place. Again, I'm going to drop his YouTube channel, which if you're here, you should be freaking subscribe to it. And I can't say enough good things about his course. I'm dropping it in the chat as well. If you come back to this, it'll be in the description on the replay. And then I'm also going to email the course out again. JT, thanks so much for being here, man. I appreciate this.
My pleasure, man. I had a blast. I love talking ball.
Yes, sir. And coaches, until next time, let's continue to master the spread, score points, and have fun.